myself outnumbered 31 to 1. Mamma was depleted of the cancer along the way. I was the last man standing, but not the last to die. I ripped out with an arm of an old but noted friend, and gave him one last hand, and beat him out to death. I wired up his body and threw into the mess. 30 butts went out and 20 in the flesh. Then the devastator had butted with his skull. I took in 7 stairs, picked and threw him at the horn. His rockets blew up and companies flew apart, right into the sky, and then came crashing down. I saved one of his rockets in case of emergency, and then it came running right from behind me. It turned and aimed, and it flew into his eye. With its fall, 7 more went down. Stims were wearing out, and so was my mind. I couldn't stand no more, so I fell down. Last thing I remembered before they captured me was a cyborg standing above me. For his crumpled jaw, he grinned at me, and then I woke up in chains of cold steel. I groaned and fought. I tried to shake them off, but I was too exhausted and my mind was going wrong. Then one entered the cell. I spit into his face, but he answered with a grin. He didn't say a word, just stared into my eyes and left as soon as he did appear. Next thing I remember was carried out. They threw me on the table, put down my legs and arms. They didn't use painkillers, there was no point to waste them. My vitriolic screams and music to their ears. They took away my arm, they took away my legs. I couldn't feel the spine as they molded their vents. They drilled into my skull and put in the chips. I threw myself and changing, my will began to shift. I rattled on the table, I screamed in pain. I started to feel how my body began to move. Against my will, it spoke these words: Jag släpper stan och lytt superiorden. Är det åt friheten och lytt åt tyranniet. Eller kommer att brytas så småningom, och vi ensamma kommer att ställa galaxen. Heil superstan, en death to superär. Gloriet och freedom, en death to tyranny. All ice will break eventually, and we alone will rule the galaxy. The next day I woke up from the nightmare inside a body that I couldn't move. I tried to fight against it, but I could only watch as my body killed the ones that I once loved. Then passed many a night, then passed many a scream. Tears went down my eyes as I killed my brothers in arms. One time I was fighting on a planet with no name, and I found my brother in the flesh and the grain. My body stopped and looked him straight in the eyes. He stopped for a moment, and then he fell down. I fought on planets far and wide. I fought and I killed my kind, and even as years passed I fought. But that one day I won. A lonesome bullet hit my head. It bounced and it flew, but something understood. I regained my body, my senses, my life. I was once again in control of my life. Of rage and hate, of rage and hate. My blood was boiling, of rage and hate. I killed the supervisor and everything around. And after I was stoned, I knew he was found. But I knew I was alone, so I would take me in. So I hatched the plan their access codes, their program, the bots, to fight for my cause. And after I was done and some time went by, the codes started to war and all hell went down. Bots attacked each other and cyphers but not me. So I took on the command and they went to war with me. They bloodied down the cyborgs and scrapped about many to cover their factories and forced them to retreat. And by the end of this bloody year, half the planet was mine and soon the rest to come. Then I found the cyborg that smiled at me today. I captured him and put in the chains. And I did to him what he did to me. I put in the chips and he was fighting for me. Oh, then the divers came for me, but not to welcome me, but to kill me, burn and soul the earth. I knew that it was coming, so I didn't even try. I fired on the ships and new war was begun. One time I was fighting against my former kind among the first line. They knew I loved this land, but then they hit me straight in the arm. Bullet that flew right and free, the target it found. Low down in the stream of red and crimson blood, mixing with oil of my new kind. I was bleeding for the first time in a while. The blood dripped down and stained the ground. But I laughed maniacally, knowing that I was bleeding free. Maybe for the first time in my life, I knew for what I shed my blood. It took them many years, campaign after campaign, but as the years went down, they took away my land, and in the end they cornered me on the same hill where I was freed. They sent the waves upon the waves on the blue sea of the sea. And after this there came a storm of the tigers coming right from above. The last forces remaining of flesh and steel, and made the final stand where it all began, by sitting on the hill of my sins, solid